Today we travel to the Blue Ridge Mountains to visit a garden that is the hub of its community. You won't want to miss it, so stay tuned as we garden smart.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
Power Planter's garden drill augers are designed to help you tackle the digging jobs in your garden or yard. Dig through hard soil to assist in planting trees, shrubs, and annuals. Power Planter's heavy-duty augers, made for professional landscapers and home gardeners alike.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
Cashiers is a popular vacation destination located in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Only 10 miles from Highlands and about 60 miles from Asheville, it is convenient to so many amazing scenic destinations. It sits at a high elevation of 3,500 feet in the middle of the Nantahala National Forest and is a beautiful spot for a host of outdoor activities. Surrounded by mountain peaks of more than 5,000 feet, Cashiers averages 75 inches of precipitation, filling the region with rivers and waterfalls and making it a perfect place for gardening. At the center of the community are numerous apparel boutiques, antique shops, and outstanding restaurants. The Cashiers Farmer Market sells fresh, local produce and delicious preserves and local honey. The year-round population is about 2,000 and swells to over 25,000 during the peak summer season when visitors flock to town to enjoy the many outdoor activities as well as its art and music scene. The Village Green is, in many ways, the hub of the community, hosting concerts and fun gatherings throughout the year that brings people together. There are more than 80 events hosted here every year, from live music, dancing, nature series, Christmas and 4th of July celebrations, and the annual Leaf Festival. The Village Green started with only 2 acres that were purchased by a few individuals in an effort to preserve some of the natural green space in the town center for everyone to enjoy. The beautiful gardens populate this park that is now 13 acres and has been evolving over the past 30 years with private donations from neighbors who believe in its importance to the community. It features walking paths, boardwalks over wetlands, a children's playground, and a large pavilion that is home to Cashiers' weekly local farmers market that brings produce in from the surrounding area and allows residents and visitors the chance to meet local farmers and explore seasonal crops. It also features many wonderful sculptures from renowned artists, many of which honor those who have made meaningful contributions to the garden, such as the kinetic wind sculpture that greets visitors at the entrance to the garden, placed there in honor of Judy Freeman, a longtime board member. Today we meet with Nathan Stewart Payne, a landscape designer who is one of the caretakers of the Village Green, who will be giving us a tour of the gardens and discussing his connection to this vibrant mountain community. Nathan, thanks so much for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So you've been designing landscapes and installing landscapes for what, 25 years?
20 years, yeah.
20 years.
So,
in one of the most beautiful places on the planet.
for sure, yeah. It's a place I call home.
Indeed, indeed. So tell me about that. What got you into garden design?
I started with a company and worked for them for 4 or 5 years and fell in love with it and started, went off on my own and started doing my own thing. So
Wow.
really enjoy doing rock work and hardscapes. That's kind of my passion.
Yeah.
So
And so you're doing mostly commercial installations or kind of a mix of
a
both?
mix of both, yeah,
Right.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay. So the Village Green, this is a project that you've been involved in now for quite some time, and so you've been able to see it evolve over the years. Tell me a little bit about what the Village Green was when you first encountered this.
Yeah, so I started 9 years ago. It was a park that was, fairly well established, but we've added a slew of gardens to it. Our new building, the Commons Hall building.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah. So really trying to bring the community into the area and utilize the park more, and yeah, I think we've succeeded in that. So.
Yeah, it's a wonderful thing, and it seems like the community has really embraced it. We were over the other day, and there was this great little farmers market that was happening, and so we got to see some of the folks that we had met in the earlier days, and they bring their produce and dahlias and whatever. So it's neat to see the way that the community has formed a relationship with this property, and I'm sure that your work on the landscape and the gardening side of this, just making it more beautiful, making it more of a destination, has been really impactful. So Nathan, the first garden that we're visiting here is the Haze Garden, and I love this kind of design. So it's got that kind of wild, whimsical planting design, and it's kind of a secret garden. Tell us about the Haze Garden.
Yeah, so it's a dedication garden from some folks in Atlanta, and they have a residence up here too. So they wanted to do something for their son, and this is what they decided on. So
yeah, so we've got kind of a simple, like, curved path that's bordered with two really nice mixed perennial and woody ornamental plants that goes back to this nice, quiet, private seating area that has like a rustic pergola over it. So really, really simple but elegant design. I do understand too that this was once a road, so
it was.
You can imagine, like, that's about the most challenging environment to build a garden on. Talk to me about how you were able to get the soil right for this space.
Yeah, so the road went right through the center of the garden, and it was a graveled road that at one time had a little bit of dirt on top of it and some grass. So when we first started in this site, we knew that. So in digging the plants, or digging the holes for the plants, we dug extra big holes, took out all of that soil, put new soil in.
Great, yeah.
Because that soil was anaerobic and just very compact. We thought that would do the trick, and the soil didn't perk, so those big holes that we dug for all the plants would fill up with water, since we get so much rain in this area, and the plants started to drown. At that point, we took all the plants out of the garden and excavated the whole area, took out, we went down probably 2 feet, and put in a series of drainage lines, and then put all new soil, topsoil back in. There's a source for compost in this area from Cherokee, and so we put compost in all of the holes and everything worked out great from there. The Shasta daisies were 6 feet tall the first couple of years.
Really?
They were
Wow.
loving it, yeah. So.
Yeah, you know, that's a common theme that we hear from landscape designers and installers all across the U.S. It's, you know, in America, there's so many sites that, you know, it's compacted sites, or ones where the topsoil may have even been removed and sold, or
Right.
they excavate a foundation and throw that clay up into the front yard. And it doesn't really matter how good you think you are at growing plants. If you're growing it in a heavy compacted soil, they're always going to struggle. And so I tell people all the time, if you want to have a successful garden, spend most of the money on the site prep.
Correct, yeah,
And
for
so
sure.
if you have a budget of $10,000, put $6,000 into the soil and like let the plants happen in time, because
Yeah.
you can't have beautiful results like this without really getting it right the first time. And of course, that's what you learn the hard way on
It
this
is,
one.
yeah. And we knew that going into it, and we tried to circumvent that from
Right.
happening, but you can only do what you can do, so yeah.
Right, right. Well, let's talk about some of the plants. I think this is it's a wonderful array of mostly native selections here, and you can see all the wildlife, the bees and the butterflies that it attracts. What are some of your favorites and ones that have worked really well here in the Haze Garden?
I love the verbena, and then the Roseanne geraniums. Summertime, they're dripping with color, so they're some of my favorites.
Yeah, yeah. Verbena bonariensis is one that we don't see in many gardens anymore. It's a native, and you know, as people have moved in the direction of really dwarf compact plants, and that's one that's just, it can be hard to find.
It is, yeah.
I love all the Joe Pye weed. The
I do too,
eupatorium is a great native plant, and you've got many of my favorite woody trees and shrubs too, with Amelanchier arborescens, the serviceberry. I think one of the most underrated small trees in the garden.
Yeah.
Of course, the variegated redbud over there is amazing, and a variegated nyssa. So some unusual natives, but also like unusual versions of those natives, and it really, really adds quite a bit of interest here. It's great.
It does, yeah. So we have a landscape architect in this area, and she did the plant selection, or a lot of the plant selection for this garden, and she loves working with natives.
So how often are you changing the plants out in this garden? Is this more or less an established design here that you're maintaining, or is it one that's evolving?
It is established. I don't think we've added anything in the last few years. We do have a few bare spots now, but usually it's very full. We didn't do any annuals this year, but most years we'll do annuals and fill in holes. So.
Well, there's nothing wrong with getting it right the first time.
Right? I agree.
One of the added benefits of having a diverse garden is all the wildlife that it brings in, whether it's birds or butterflies, you know, all the bees. And we have to always remember how important pollinators are, not just to our garden, but to our ecosystem.
Absolutely.
You know, without pollinators, we don't have food for the most part. I love collecting seeds off of my perennials every year and just seeing what's going to happen. It's a great way, of course, you know, if you find something you really love, it's a great way of transporting that plant to another side of the garden. But without pollinators, you don't have viable seeds. You know, so for that seed to be viable, you know, you have to actually have a pollination event. And so from a standpoint of, you know, just the survival of many of these native plants that we love, and especially ones that are endangered, it's important to have these protected like pollinator areas to help those populations and give them something to eat and to thrive.
Absolutely.
Some of my favorites, I love almost all the asters, and the native asters
yeah.
are great, and especially in that blue lavender space. But then things like, you know, the Shasta daisies, which are in the aster family. One that I think is so important, and of course they're stunningly beautiful and there's so much diversity, is echinacea, just as a family.
Right.
And the way that it entices finches and sparrows, like the small songbirds, into the garden, but then it attracts bees. Bees love the coneflower.
They do, yeah.
Also the rudbeckias, the brown-eyed Susans, the black-eyed Susans. We see so many great examples of that here. And then so many things in the Helianthus family too. So
Sure.
all of these different native sunflowers and you know, even some of the non-natives that are super interesting. Well, that's a great food source for birds. And so, you know, one thing to think about too with our pollinator garden is we shouldn't be too hasty to like cut all of these seed heads down at the end of the season, because that is a major food supply for so many of these animals and insects that come into the garden. So, you know, view it as more of like, you know, a full year in the garden of, you know, flowers for pollinators that provide nectar, all the way through the seeds that will later provide food for the birds.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and if you have a garden like this, I mean, you can let them go to seed and it helps to fill it out. You get volunteers and
Right.
yeah.
Well, and sometimes those volunteers will be some of the most interesting plants in your garden because you get all of this additional genetic diversity.
Right.
Especially if you buy a cultivar, you know, of one of our native plants. It was selected for very specific traits, but you might find something that's particularly dwarf or a different color.
Right.
And maybe it does even that much better in your garden.
Yeah, it's interesting how that works for sure. Yeah.
No doubt, no doubt.
Yeah.
So Nathan, over all the years that you've been involved in this garden, you've been able to see it evolve and you know, areas that, you know, may have been a little tired or not quite as interesting. You've had the opportunity to go in there and really do something fun with them. And
Right.
the Millstone Garden here is a great example of that. This is between a couple of the structures here, and it's just a nice stop along the way. And is a really clever garden. Tell us about it.
This area was turf and trees back over here until we built the building. The landscape architect came up with a couple of different gardens on either side. So this one was created as another dedication garden, outlined it in orchard stone, nice little seating area with annual color. She had millstones at her house. She wanted to incorporate one of those into the garden. So we created a fountain. It's on a pedestal. It has a small little pump in there, and it's just soothing, and you know, people come out here and sit, and yeah, they love it. So.
It's a great opportunity to use containers. I love using containers in the garden just as focal points and little splashes of colors. And in these smaller, more like pocket gardens, it's a great place to let the containers shine. And one thing I love about containers too is they elevate the height of the plant. So when you're sitting on the bench, plants are basically right at a really nice level to enjoy them. And some great selections here, just some classics with the Margarita sweet potato and the Euphorbia diamond frost is one of my favorite container plants. It's a great plant I think every gardener should consider using.
Yes, I agree, yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the synthetic turf here.
Okay.
Because we're seeing a lot of people use that in design. I think it's great in so many ways. Turf is very water, very fertility, you know, intensive, and there's a lot of maintenance that goes into keeping it looking nice.
There is. So our other garden, Haze Fairchild, it has a nice little circle area there, and we've redone the grass there twice, and it still doesn't look great. So in here we decided to use artificial turf, and we put down a layer of crush and run gravel, pack it down, put the artificial turf on top of that, and then use an infill to help the grass stand up. It has a couple of different colors, has thatch in there even, so it's a great use, and it doesn't wear out. So
right, and it's come a long way. So for people for people who are thinking like, you know, old school AfroTurf that you'd have in like the mudroom in your home, it's so different from that. Like you said, there's even, you know, they even simulate the thatch in it. You can get, you know, different heights, you know, and even things that look like different types of grass. So if you haven't thought about it in a while and you want like a nice little turf area, go take another look at it.
Yeah, it's a great option. They have so many different selections out there right now. So yeah, and some of them are more expensive than others, but yeah, it's a great option.
It's a brave new world.
It is.
Nathan, green spaces for communities are so important, and I love that that's a significant part of the design here, is a place to bring everyone together. And I'm sure there's wonderful concerts and festivals and things like that that you're able to do here.
For example, we have Grooving on the Green. It's a free music concert for the community. We do like the Leaf Festival, which is a...
Yeah, sure, like a market festival type thing.
Yes. Right.
Yeah, very cool.
And then we do weddings here, a antique show where they set up a big tent in the green space.
So unlike the synthetic turf that we saw over there, you've got a natural turf out here. And
Sure.
when you have thousands of people using your space, that sometimes will cause some maintenance issues. What are some of the challenges you've seen maintaining that?
Yeah, so like last year we had Leaf Festival and it rained through the whole festival, and so all of that foot traffic and wherever the tents were set up for the vendors, we put hay in there so that people's shoes wouldn't get all messed up. And so when everything was taken down and all the hay was pulled up, we had little squares of dead grass. And
Of course.
You know, having to go in there and aerate and overseed and fertilize and lime and get that grass back up to par. One thing that I started doing when I first got here, the first year we treated the grass with herbicides, and we have all the clover and dandelions in here. And just like we were talking about earlier with pollinators,
Right.
you know,
Oh, yeah.
spraying on top of the bees, and I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that anymore. So
Right.
8 years ago we stopped doing that, and now we have clover and dandelions and more of a natural grass, which I think is better for the environment for sure. So.
Well, yeah, in certain places, both of those are very durable. Also, especially clover, it can take quite a beating, and like I said, it's just one more place to provide food and nectar for pollinators and for wildlife, and it's also it's attractive too.
Right, yeah, for sure.
Well, Nathan, I've had so much fun touring this garden. What an amazing space, and
Thank
what
you.
a treasure it is for the city of Cashiers. Thank you so much for spending the time with us.
Absolutely, I appreciate it. Yeah, it was great to talk to you.
Great, likewise. Each week we travel the country north to south, east to west, visiting some of the most exciting gardens, as well as talking to industry horticulturalists about design principles, new plants, and also how you can be most successful with your home gardens. We also love answering your gardening questions, so visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com.
These moments of beauty and relaxation are brought to you by Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs. Our goal is to leave you free to just enjoy your garden. Proven Winners Flowering Shrubs can be found at local garden centers across the country.
Power Planter's garden drill augers are designed to help you tackle the digging jobs in your garden or yard. Dig through hard soil to assist in planting trees, shrubs, and annuals. Power Planter's heavy-duty augers, made for professional landscapers and home gardeners alike.
DRAM has been providing gardeners with professional equipment for over 80 years. DRAM products feature 9 water patterns and are designed to nurture your plants with a shower of rain. DRAM for lawn and garden, available at garden centers near you.
The Jaguar F-Pace.
There's so much work that goes into creating and maintaining the spaces that we love and enjoy. If you have questions, visit us on the web at GardenSMART.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. Also, check out GardenSMART TV on YouTube for more great content and gardening tips to help you garden smart.